Okay, picture this for a second. A swarm of drones descending on a city. They're scanning, targeting, and firing, all in the blink of an eye. Now, this isn't some far-off sci-fi movie. This is the reality of the battlefield, right now. And at the very heart of it all is a simple and honestly a pretty terrifying fact.
That's right. There's no human finger on the trigger. It's just lines of code making life or death decisions. This is the world of autonomous weapons. And today, we are diving headfirst into the massive legal and ethical black hole they've created. So, first things first, what are we actually talking about when we say autonomous weapons? Let's break down this tech that has leaped straight from the pages of science fiction and landed right in our reality. Okay, so the official term is Autonomous Weapons Systems, or AWS. And what that means is these are machines that use artificial intelligence for all the critical stuff. Finding a target, locking on, and yes, using lethal force, all without a human being giving that final go command. And this is not theoretical. They're already here. Take Turkey's Kargu 2 drone. It was reportedly used with these autonomous features in Libya all the way back in 2020. Now, you can see why this tech is so complicated. It's a real double-edged sword. On one side, military planners see this huge potential. You get 24/7 precision, you reduce the risk to your own soldiers, and you could cut logistics costs in half. But the other side? The perils are just massive. You've got biased algorithms, the ever-present risk of hacks or simple glitches, and the very real danger that conflicts could escalate in seconds, way faster than any human diplomat could ever react.
And that brings us right to the core of the problem, what we're calling the legal black hole. You see, the laws of war, these rules built over centuries to govern human conflict, are now up against something they were just never designed for. It's become a complete legal labyrinth. And really, it all boils down to this one crucial question. If one of these autonomous weapons makes a mistake and hits, say, a school or a hospital, who's to blame? Is it the programmer who wrote the code? The company that built it? The commander who sent it out? Or does accountability just evaporate into thin air?
To really get why this is so tough, you have to look at the pillars of International Humanitarian Law, or IHL. These three ideas, distinction, proportionality, and precaution, they're the absolute bedrock of the rules of war. But these autonomous systems, they put a huge strain on all of them, especially that first one, distinction. How can an AI truly understand the messy, complex context of a battlefield? How does it tell the difference between a soldier raising a rifle and a farmer raising a hoe? This chain of events creates what you might call a crisis of accountability. The responsibility gets so spread out that if a war crime happens, there's no single person you can clearly point to. The programmer can blame the commander's orders, the commander can blame a software glitch, and well, you can't exactly put the machine itself on trial. Experts have a name for this. They call it the responsibility gap, a loophole that could let war crimes happen with complete impunity. So if we step away from the law for a moment, we run into these incredibly deep ethical questions. We are talking about delegating the decision to take a human life to a machine. Can an algorithm, a piece of code, ever really grasp what that means? You can really see the danger growing across three major risks. First, you've got algorithmic bias. If you train an AI on flawed data, you get a prejudiced machine that might target unfairly. Then there's the risk of escalation. When these systems react in milliseconds, you could have flash conflicts that just spiral out of control before anyone knows what's happening. But maybe the biggest danger of all is dehumanization, where war just becomes a cold, hard calculation, totally detached from human empathy or moral judgment. And listen, this quote from a recent ethics review just hits the nail on the head. The idea of warfare losing its ethical brakes, that's a truly terrifying thought. It points to a future where the moral guardrails that we've built to prevent the absolute worst atrocities have been completely torn down by technology. So with stakes this high, what is the world actually doing about it? Well, the international community is definitely trying to respond, but it is deeply, deeply divided on how to create new rules for this new age of war. Over at the UN, nations are basically split into three main camps. First, you have the prohibitionists. We're talking over 120 nations who are calling for a full, outright ban on these weapons. Then you've got the regulators, like the United States, who want rules to ensure meaningful human control, but, they stop short of a ban because they want to maintain a technological edge.
And finally, you have the resistors, including countries like China and Russia, who are pushing back against any binding rules at all, claiming it's a matter of national sovereignty. And you should know, this isn't some abstract debate. It's happening right now. A UN resolution in late 2024 kicked off a new round of talks. All through 2025, expert groups are meeting to try and shape a potential treaty. The big goal is to have some kind of legally binding rules by 2026. But believe me, the clock is ticking. So all of this brings us to the future. If we just keep going down this road, the big arms race of tomorrow won't be about who has more fighter jets or tanks. It's going to be about who has the smartest, the fastest, and the most lethal algorithms. But it's not a lost cause. There are solutions on the table. Experts are proposing things like mandating traceable and explainable AI so we can actually audit a machine's decisions. They're calling for international agreements on verification. But most importantly, they're pushing to update international law to make one thing crystal clear. A human must always retain ultimate moral control over the use of force. And so we're left with what might be the defining question of our time. As this technology spreads like wildfire, do we push for a complete ban on these so-called killer robots? Or do we try to race against time to build ethical guardrails around them before it's too late? The future of human conflict? Well, it may very well depend on how we answer that question.